Hello friends and welcome back to my channel. This is the first video of 2026 in the new format of problem first, moving into the consequence and finishing off with the solution. This particular video exists because I tried to fix something that wasn't even broken. My original foaming soap tablet formula worked beautifully, had great foam, great clarity, no long-term issues. The only problem, a preservative change that affected a couple of states. But instead of making a small adjustment in version 2, I over-engineered it. Ooh, I added ingredients that seemed like improvements, and that's where things started to fall apart long term. So today, I'm walking you through the lesson I had to learn, why simpler was better, what actually caused the failure, and why version 1.1 is a return to what truly works. Here's the part that's important to understand. Version 1 of this foaming soap tablet worked. It wasn't unstable, it wasn't sticky, it didn't break down over time. It dissolved cleanly, stayed crystal clear in the foamer bottle, and performed exactly the way that it was supposed to. The only issue with version 1 had nothing to do with performance. It was regulatory. A couple of states stopped allowing the sale of products made with Germal Plus. And instead of making a small, targeted adjustment, I did what a lot of formulators do. I started rebuilding. I assumed that if I added more conditioning ingredients, more surfactants, more skin feel helpers, I could future-proof the formula. But that assumption is what caused the problem, not the original formula itself. Version 2 seemed fine at first. On the surface, it looked like an upgrade. But over time, something changed. The tablets started holding onto moisture. They became sticky. They lost that loose, clean powder structure that tablets need in order to stay stable long term. The issue wasn't that the ingredients were bad. The issue was that several of them were hygroscopic. They attract and hold water from the air. And in a tablet format, that's dangerous. Tablets need structure first. Once that structure is compromised, no amount of tweaking will save it. What you end up with is a product that works today and fails weeks or months later. That's when it clicked for me. I didn't improve the formula, I disrupted the balance that made it work in the first place. So instead of chasing fixes, I went back to fundamentals. I looked at what made version 1 successful and asked a different question. What can I change as little as possible while still addressing the real concerns? Version 1.1 isn't a reinvention, it's a correction. It keeps the original structure that made version 1 stable and reliable, with only minor intentional tweaks to soften the skin feel without introducing moisture traps or long-term instability. And that's what I'm sharing with you today, not because it's flashy or new, but because it works. If there's one lesson that I want you to take from this, it's this. When a formula works, respect it. Don't fix what isn't broken. So now that you understand why this lesson mattered, it's time to actually make the tablets. What I'm doing next isn't about reinventing anything, it's about respecting a formula that already worked and making only the changes that were truly necessary. As I move over here to Creation Station, I'm going to walk you through version 1.1 step by step, explain what stayed the same, what changed, and why those small tweaks make all the difference long term. This is a great example of why formulation isn't about adding more. It's about knowing when to stop. The most important thing to understand with tablets like this is that the structure comes first. No amount of liquid is going to save a tablet if the powder base isn't doing its job. We're going to start off our ingredient base with our sodium cocoa sulfate, and this is the backbone of the formula. It's going to give us cleansing powder and the foam that people expect from a foaming soap tablet. I've reduced it slightly from the original version, not to weaken the performance, but to make room for a milder system overall. I've already got that in my bowl, as you can see, but before I add our next ingredient, I am going to go ahead and put on my mask. And you should too. Whenever you're dealing with these type of surfactant powders, put your mask on. You do not want to, have this go into your nose, into your throat, and these powders will waft up. Okay, now that I have my mask on, Hope you guys can still hear me. I am using a new microphone, so hopefully you should be able to hear me fairly well. Okay, again, we've got the sodium cocoa sulfate in here. Our next ingredient is going to be sodium cocoyl isothianate, your SCI powder. This is where some of the softness comes from. SCI is going to help to cushion the surfactant system so that the foam feels less harsh on the skin. It's still a powder and it's still going to support structure, but it changes how the finished product feels after rinsing. Just try to put it in there as gently as you can. And then whisk it in. Our next ingredient is sodium carbonate, and this is what activates the tablet once it hits the water. In version 1.1, this is intentionally lower than before. That small reduction makes a noticeable difference in how drying the final wash feels without affecting the performance. Next, we're going to be using some sodium gluconate, and this is here for chelation support. It's going to help keep the performance consistent, especially in hard water. Followed by disodium EDTA, and this is going to back up the sodium gluconate. This isn't about the feel, it's about reliability and repeatability. And lastly, we're going to be putting in our Germal Plus. This is our preservative. Even though this is a dry tablet, it's designed to be dissolved in water. And so that means preservation matters and it's a non-negotiable. Okay, we're going to go ahead and just set our powders aside, and we're going to work on our liquid portion. And this is where people tend to get nervous. Liquid ingredients aren't the enemy, uncontrolled moisture is. So this is our caprylyl glucoside. This ingredient was also in version 1 and it earned its place there as well. It helps with solubilization and overall performance, but it's used carefully so that it doesn't overwhelm the powder structure. Before I add this to the powders, I'm going to blend in my water-soluble liquid dye. I am going to be a little heavy-handed with this because I do want there to be color in the finished water that's going to be inside of the foamer bottle. Again, it does look heavy-handed, but it's needed. Okay, the next thing that I'm going to blend into my liquid portion here is going to be Polyquat 7. This is a very small amount, but it makes a real difference. Polyquat 7 improves the after feel without clouding the final solution, which is critical for a foamer bottle. All right, let's just set that aside for a moment. We're going to bring our powders back into view. At this point, I'm going to blend everything until it's uniform. I want a nice, dry, loose, free-flowing powder. No clumps. Again, make sure that you have your mask on for this part. And then now I'm going to go ahead and take that liquid portion. I'm going to just go ahead and slowly and gradually start adding this and stopping as soon as the powder holds together when pressed, not before, and definitely not after. So I'm just going to drizzle this in. All right, that looks like it's mixed pretty well. And so now we're going to go ahead and add our fragrance oil. This goes in once your structure is already set. I'm going to mix just enough to evenly distribute that. And the fragrance I am using today is blackberry mixed with a little bit of salted caramel. I know that sounds kind of weird, but whenever you're using some type of a fruit fragrance, always anchor that with an amber or a musk. And I thought that the salted caramel had enough of that gourmand fragrance to it that it would blend really nicely with the blackberry. So, and it does, it smells fantastic. Because we really want to have some fragrance left on our hands after we've used our foaming soap, right? All right, we're going to get in here in a minute with our hands after we blend this a little bit more. Remember, citric acid is always last. I'm going to get that in here in just a minute. So the citric acid is what creates the reaction when the tablet hits the water, so it needs to stay dry and evenly distributed until the very end. All right, that looks fairly good. So let's go ahead and get that citric acid in. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and take my mask off. I'm pretty confident that the tiny little particles from the powders aren't going to really hurt me. All right, really get in here with your hands now. See how it's sticking together now? At this stage, I can go ahead and start sprinkling it into the mold. I'm going to be using my arbor press today. And our tablet mold that we make and sell, 3D printed. It's up on our Etsy shop. So this is the consistency that you want. You want a nice kind of, I wouldn't even say moist, like barely moist powder. You want to go ahead and squeeze it together. It's going to hold its form just like a bath bomb. That's the texture you're looking for. All right, we're going to put that over there. Bring in the arbor press to a point where you guys can see it. Yeah, you can pretty much see it right there. Okay, like I said, we're going to go ahead and use our arbor press and our 3D printed tablet mold. There are 3 pieces. Each piece has a tab on each end to help you with the unmolding process. So just like a bath bomb, I'm going to go ahead and put that cylinder on the bottom plate and just sprinkle some mix in. If you want, you can go ahead and poke your finger down in there into each one of these cavities just to make sure that you're getting enough mix. When I make my foaming soap tablets, the finished product comes out roughly around 14 grams is the finished tablet size. Because I do this, I'm not really compacting it really very hard. I just want to make sure that I don't have any air pockets in there and there's, you know, there's enough mix. So then go ahead and take your top plunger piece, stick it in the top. Get rid of the excess. And then we're going to go ahead and stick it underneath our arbor press, and we're going to lightly press. Let me fix this. Yeah, that's better. All right, we're going to lightly press all the way around. And then down the middle. Okay. And then we're just going to take our spoon, give it some taps. Taps on the bottom. Remove that bottom plate. You can see the tabs. And then use the tabs on the outside cylinder to push down. I usually do a rocking motion till they're all the way down. And then you can go ahead and get them out. Let me arrange these nicely, and then I'll show you guys a couple of them. Alrighty. And here are the foaming soap tablets, version 1.1. And this is exactly where version 1.1 works. Nothing flashy, nothing extra, just a formula that respects the structure first, and that's what gives you long-term stability. Beautiful. So the biggest takeaway from this project isn't really about foaming soap tablets. It's about formulation discipline. Version 1 worked because the structure was right. When I tried to improve it by adding more ingredients instead of understanding the system, that's when problems showed up long term. Version 1.1 is a reminder that good formulation isn't about constant innovation. It's about knowing when something already works and respecting that balance. Thanks for hanging out with me today at Creation Station, and I'll see you in the next formulation. If you're a YouTube channel member, the written formula and instructions are waiting for you in the description box. If you're not a member, you can also get this formula along with more than 100 others and all future releases by joining my Patreon, or you can pick it up individually in my Etsy shop. All the links are below. Choose what's right for you.